other.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. Very excited to have all of you on this webinar about how to measure the success for your company or for your senior living community or healthcare organization. We've just been really amazed at the signups and kind of the interest in this. We've had over 100 signups from healthcare and senior living communities for this webinar. We're excited to tell you about what key performance indicators you should be looking at, how you should measure it, and then how you should measure the customer acquisition costs through your sales and marketing channels. So a couple housekeeping items. One, we are recording this webinar, so if you have any questions, if you miss anything, if your coworker comes in and interrupts you for a second, feel free. We'll be sending the recording out afterwards, and you'll have a chance to view the recording or share it with any of your colleagues. Additionally, if you have questions as we're moving throughout the webinar, you can ask questions in the box over here on the right. Simply submit a question, and at the end of the webinar, we will get to as many of the questions as we possibly can. And thank you again for joining us today. So, a little background, I'm David Falwell. I'm the president of The Growth Company. We're a digital marketing firm that helps companies like yours increase website traffic and increase the number of leads that come through your website. We also have Aaron Hayes on the phone, who is the CIO for Inquire Solutions, and who is just an absolutely incredible human being and has some amazing insights into what metrics matter for senior living communities and healthcare organizations. And with that, I'll let Aaron introduce herself.
Thank you, Dave. Since we founded Inquire Solutions, we've had the pleasure of working with hundreds of senior living communities all around the United States and in Canada, and have been lucky enough to experience a 99% client retention rate. And I think the reason we have been so successful is because of the analytics and the reporting that our products offer. And they really do give an advantage to our users and to our clients in the senior housing industry. So one statistic is we had a client who was able to capture referrals better in our system and using our call center product and reduce fees by 45% by capturing more of those organic leads. Our tools make it really easy to capture these metrics that we'll go through today, but we do know that there are many tools in the marketplace, and all of the things that we're going to go through today you can do on your own and using multiple different tools. So the webinar overview today, we're going to go through what metrics matter, how do you track them, and then what reports should you look at. So what do you measure? We broke this webinar up into 3 categories, and the first being traffic. So how are you getting people to your website to become interested in your community? And then how are you converting those to leads? So really, what calls to action are you using? How are you enticing visitors to then become a lead that you can work through the sales cycle? And then, of course, the sale or the close. So what methods are you using to actually close the deal? And then the key to really measuring each of these phases is to capture the information into a system or an integrated series of systems that show the full sales life cycle. So if you break these apart, you really can't get the full picture. And so what we want to try to do is capture all of these different pieces of this process into one system and into one report.
All right, well, thank you, Aaron. Well, now I'm going to jump in and talk a little bit about traffic. And how are people finding you, and what should you be measuring when they are finding you? So looking at some of the source categories, when you look at this page, think about this as the high-level categories that you should be measuring traffic to your organization. And this could be in-person traffic, web traffic, or through phone calls as well. But we'll be looking at a little bit of digital direct mail, web, signage, email, internet advertising, referral sources, print advertising, social media, and word of mouth. These are kind of the broad buckets of where you want to look at what type of activities are driving traffic to our website or to our community. So with this webinar, I know we had the question at the very beginning of this when you signed up of what are some of your biggest day-to-day challenges? And I know the answer was that accurate reporting and increasing sales were 2 of the key components in terms of things that you're dealing with on a day-to-day challenge. And to touch on accurate reporting is largely to be effective with your reporting, you need to have the right tools in place to make sure that you're tracking everything from end to end. Our recommendation that our marketing agency gives to all of our clients is to use a combination of Google Analytics, HubSpot, and Inquire Leads. As Aaron mentioned, there's a lot of different solutions out there. There's other tools that will do this. This happens to be our favorite because of the ease of use and because of the ease of setup, and also the ability to deliver customized reports that are meaningful to our customers. That said, a lot of tools to use. These are just a couple that we would recommend. So jumping into the web categories and traffic, the different types of traffic that you'll receive from your website. First is direct traffic. And these are all of these categories are things that you'll see in your Google Analytics report or in a HubSpot report. But direct traffic is when somebody types in a URL directly into the search bar of their browser. So if you open up Google Chrome and you type in inquiresolutions.com, and you visit their website, that would be considered direct traffic. Organic traffic is when you actually search on Google or Bing for a string of keywords that are relevant to you. Often people are searching for things where they're trying to solve a problem or they're trying to identify a product that they want to purchase. An example of this would be if you type in best CRM for senior living, you should see Inquire Solutions in the top results. You click on that, you go to the website. That's an example of organic traffic to your website. And organic is what we would suggest is one of the key metrics with regards to web categories to measure, because this in the long run is it's a free traffic to your website based on the content that's on your website. Social media is another channel that we'd like to measure and understand how effective we are with our social media communication. A lot of our clients, when we first start working with them, will say, we have a really great social media strategy in place, and we'll look at it and we'll look at the fact that they have content going up onto their social media stream, but how many people are actually visiting your website from these social media channels. So it's critical to measure and see what the effectiveness of the channel is to see how much traffic you're actually driving to your website. Additionally, paid advertising. The best example of this is Google AdWords. So if you wanted to be found for senior living community, Denver, Colorado, you could easily do that. You go into Google AdWords and you purchase those keywords at a cost per click, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And then every time that somebody types those words into Google, you're going to show up at the top of the results and you're going to pay to get people to your website. Additionally, there's referral traffic. This is different than the referral traffic you think about when a doctor recommends your community to a senior. This is referral sources such as other websites. An example of this is if you did a press release, or if Inquire Solutions were to feature your company on their website, somebody reads the article, clicks on it, and then goes to your website, that would be considered a referral source in the web category, not to be confused with a friend referral or word of mouth referrals. There's also email marketing. Email marketing I consider one of the most undervalued marketing tools, and we'll talk about some specifics on how you can use it effectively here in a minute. But email marketing is send an email to somebody, they click on a link in the email and go to your website. So it's another source for web traffic. So how do you generate more traffic? Touching on the fact that everybody here on the call, I think, wants to accelerate sales or improve sales for their organization. One of the ways you can do that is by starting at the top of the funnel and increasing the amount of traffic to your website. A few ways that you can increase the amount of traffic that comes through your website are content, keywords, calls to action, email marketing. So let me start with content. So content is what we consider the foundation to any good marketing, online marketing strategy. And the reason for this is you're building content and articles that will drive users from Google to your website. You want to make sure that the one thing that I've seen repeatedly with customers, though, is that they'll start producing articles or start producing content, and then they'll say, hey, they'll get excited about being #1 for specific keywords, and that's where the keyword strategy comes into place, because it's very important to actually look at what is the search volume on the keywords that you're targeting in your content strategy. And you want to make sure that you have a high search volume and low competitiveness. And what this means when I say search volume is there's tools. There's actually 2 tools that we use. One called Word Tracker, actually three, HubSpot, Word Tracker, and Google Keyword Planner. Google Keyword Planner is actually a free tool that you can use for this to identify how frequently somebody is searching for a specific set of terms on a monthly basis. So when clients come to us and say, hey, we're #1 for this keyword, the first thing I do is I look at, well, how frequently is that keyword being searched for? And oftentimes it's not very much. I mean, I've had clients get excited about it and I look at it and say, well, it's only being searched 5 times a month, so that's great, but let's focus on some words that have a little bit higher search volume so that we can drive your traffic up even further. Additionally, calls to action. So when you're doing press releases, guest posts, or having content on other websites, if you want to drive people back to your website, you need to make sure that you have an effective call to action. So too often than not, we see people that write articles or send out a press release and they'll talk about their brand, but they don't have a reason to actually go from that page to the next page. And that's where a call to action comes in terms of driving traffic to your website. Lastly, email marketing. Again, I'm going to go into this a little bit more in depth because it's so valuable. But email marketing is setting up campaigns and making sure that you're sending these to people. If you have a walk-in come into your community, you want to then take and put them into a lead and then make sure you're sending them automated emails over time to bring them back to your website. So digging in a little bit, using email as a traffic tool, there's 3 things that are critical to this, to making sure that it's successful for you. 1, you want to personalize your emails. You need to speak to different people differently. When you have an adult child versus a senior come into the system, you want to make sure that they're receiving different types of communication. They care about different things, and because they care about different things, you want to communicate different things to them. This will, if you are segmenting your list, personalizing your emails, you're going to see an increase in the number of click-throughs. You're going to see an increase in the number of conversions that you get from those click-throughs. So I can't stress enough the importance of personalization. We've seen click-through rates go up over 500% just by segmenting and personalizing emails. Additionally, you want to make sure that you have a comprehensive strategy in place for your email marketing. A lot of times we see clients who will say, yeah, well, we send 1 email every quarter, or we have these standard emails, but really making sure that you kind of build out, right, when a new lead comes into our system, what is the who are they, and then what is the communication that they're going to get over the next 2 weeks. So really building out a communication strategy based on the different segments of leads that you have so that you can kind of standardize it and measure it over time. And then lastly, the automation piece. So we talk a lot about doing all of this email marketing, and it sounds like a lot of work. But with tools like HubSpot, there's also another, Act-On is another tool in the marketing automation piece. And these integrate directly with Inquire Leads on the CRM front. But having a tool that allows you to automatically send emails based on the type of lead makes it so that your sales team and your employees can focus on delivering customer service and delivering the personal touch, while the email and the story that you want to tell is consistent and on brand and delivered over time. So when it comes to tracking inbound traffic, we just dug into web analytics there a little bit, but I also want to just point out that it's really important that you, even with phone numbers, you can set up a different phone number for every single one of your community. Every one of your communities probably has a different phone number. You can actually set up different marketing phone numbers based on different activities. So if you have a landing page that you want to test and see how effective the calls are that are going to come through it, you can create marketing phone numbers that are then tracked into Inquire Leads or CRM platforms similar to that, and then see which marketing activities are the most effective for your organization. And that ties to the last point here, which is integrating with your CRM. All of this tracking is great. Understanding where your web traffic and where traffic to your organization is coming from is great, but unless you're tying this to a CRM of some sort and tracking it down to the sale, you really don't know how effective that is, because you can't tell which one's actually driving sales. So looking a little bit deeper at web analytics, there's a few, this is what I would call on-site web analytics. So we've talked about what brings people to your site. This is looking at what happens when they're on your site. So page views. Page views is a fairly simple concept. It's that if I visit InquireSolutions.com and I go to the first page, and then I go look at their CRM solution, and then I go over to the resource section, and then I download their benchmarking report. I've just gone to 4 pages, so that's 4 page views. What Google does and HubSpot, they'll actually give you a report that looks like this. Here you can see, and they'll tell you the total number of page views, and you can start to even look at average pages per session. So you see, what you get is an overall look at how engaged are people with our website. Are they actually moving around and looking at different things, or are they just coming to our website and leaving? Secondly, sessions. This is the holistic look. You can see here with an effective content strategy what traffic can look like in terms of sessions. But sessions is the total number of times that your website's been open over a specific period of time. Here we're looking at, I believe it's a year-over-year view of what sessions look like. And this is the difference actually between having effective content strategy in place and kind of just a standard website out there. Lastly, bounce rate. So bounce rate is defined by if somebody comes to if they go to your homepage and they turn around and they leave immediately, or they bounce off of your website, that means that they didn't see the information they wanted. It maybe didn't resonate with them, or it was the wrong user. It might have been the wrong demographic that got to your website. So bounce rate is something that's also a kind of a level of engagement on your actual site. So now jumping into paid advertising. A few of the key metrics here. I'm actually going to start with campaigns. So campaigns are kind of the overarching look at, here's the different targets I'm going after. You may have an adult child campaign and a senior campaign that are very different in terms of the content that they're offering and also the advertisements that you set up. And again, this kind of ties back into that personalization aspect of marketing, but making sure that you have the campaign level structure in place and then tracking what is the cost per click for each one of these campaigns. How much am I paying to get somebody from a Google search results into our website? That's the cost per click. So every time that you click on an ad in Google AdWords, anywhere from 50 cents to $15 can be paid to Google, and that would be the cost per click. Cost per conversion is one of the more important metrics as well, along with customer acquisition costs. Cost per conversion is how much did it cost on average to get somebody to our website and to submit a form. So conversion, frequently you can define different types of conversions, but we typically look at conversions as how much did the lead cost. And we see this range anywhere from $5 up to $500 when the campaigns are not effective. I've seen customers paying as much as $500 per lead. So this is, again, one of those critical components to measure and just understand how much are we paying per lead, and which campaigns are delivering leads at the best, at the lowest cost per conversion. So looking at even deeper at the website, a few metrics specific to content. So web pages, understanding what web pages just as a whole people are viewing on your site. Every one of the HubSpot and Google Analytics will give you an overview of every URL, whether it be the home page, your news section, your contact us, and you can start to look at which pages are receiving the most traffic, and then you can kind of optimize over time with that, or you can find sometimes you'll notice that, wow, 70% of our traffic is going to this page and we didn't even realize that. Let's move that up to the front, or let's get more people to that page. Additionally, content. We talk about this a lot, but content is just a critical component in terms of driving traffic to your site and then also converting leads. And we like to measure what content is actually taking and engaging users. So what's the time that they spend on that piece of content, and then how many people are actually converting from that content into a lead. And lastly, lead magnets or content offers are the two terms that we tend to use. This is the downloadable PDF that you leave your information for. You'll leave your email and phone number for a good piece of content. We recommend this as one of the most effective ways to turn traffic into leads, is to create lead magnets. But then over time, when it comes to the metric side, you want to measure which lead magnets are people actually leaving their information for. What is the percentage of people that are downloading a report? An example of this, some of you on the phone may have downloaded the Senior Living Benchmarking Report. If you haven't, I highly recommend it. It's created by Inquire Solutions. It's a great piece of content that kind of gives you an overview of how your organization is doing compared to the industry. But that would be an example of a lead magnet where we track its effectiveness over time. For your organization, it may be a guide on how to select a senior living community for mom. It may be a comprehensive guide of some sort, and that you'd put up on your website, put a form in place, and then track over time what is the percentage of people that see this actually download it. So now I'm going to pass it off to Erin to talk through leads.
Okay, so now you have all this traffic coming in, so how are you converting to leads, and what are you going to measure once those people become leads? So the first thing you want to make sure you're doing is classifying your leads in a CRM database. And there are a lot of things you can use, a lot of different fields you can use to classify a lead, but this is what we would recommend. First, you want to be able to capture the time frame. So this plays into your sales pipeline. What is the time frame for their move-in, for any type of care? And then interest. So what are they interested in? What service offering? What are their hot buttons? What assistance might they need? That all needs to be captured in a CRM along with their influencers. So if there is an adult child or adult children involved in the process, you want to make sure you capture that information because, as Dave mentioned before, when you're doing your targeted campaigns, marketing campaigns, you want to make sure that all those influencers are designated in your system so you can pull that segmented list on them and then personalize that marketing to them. And then, of course, demographics. Even things like income, annual income, or home value might be good just to see what types of leads are actually contacting you. And then, of course, your status and sales stage. So status, that will help you monitor where they are as far as from a prediction standpoint for your sales pipeline. And sales stage, you want to track where they're falling in that entire sales process so that you can measure the progress of the lead, measure the time it's taking to convert leads, and also be able to segment leads to target them with messaging based on if they've come into your community yet, or if they put down a deposit, or if they've just inquired. So a big thing is capturing these metrics. And so you want to make sure that you're doing these three things to capture the metrics. And the first is implementing lead forms and fields where you can categorize these leads. So like I talked about on the previous slide, you want to make sure that these are all in your CRM, that you've customized them to capture exactly what you need to report on. You might want to implement lead scoring based on the individual's interaction with your company digitally. Are they interacting with your salespeople? Are they going on your web page? There's many different scoring methodologies out there that you can actually implement into your CRM. And then analytics, so you want to make sure you're using a CRM that can track things for you, such as how much time you've invested in each lead, track automatically the sales stage they might fall in based on categories, things like that. You need to make sure that you actually have a tool that's going to capture that for you. So just an example of segmenting leads, when everyone signed up for this webinar, you were asked a question, what is your biggest sales and marketing challenge? And so if we were putting you into our CRM, we would have a field that we've customized and put in there that said sales and marketing challenge. And we'd have a drop down with all of the different options in the center here, such as following up, connecting marketing and sales, etc. And we would categorize you based on your response. So, and then what we want to do is target what we're doing to what is important to you, which is similar to what you would do with anything as far as, when a lead comes in, being able to segment them and then target them. So if we were looking at the data, we see that accurate reporting and tracking and increasing sales are the most important to people that are viewing this webinar today. So what our webinar is focusing on is, one, increasing sales. So we'll give you tips on how to increase traffic, leads, and convert those to sales. And then accurate tracking and reporting. So we'll show you what needs to be tracked and what reports can help you identify trends so you can make better decisions. So I like to break this up into 6 different ways to measure your leads. And they're all very different. So the first being source. So what market sources, what referral sources are actually bringing leads to your company? Very important to measure that in order to focus marketing spend. And then method. So this is equally as important. So how are those leads contacting you? So are they contacting you via the web, through a referral source? Are they just calling in? That's where call tracking numbers become important, because you actually, if they're just calling in, can see exactly what number they're using to call in, and maybe it was some sort of marketing effort you did. And then number 3, time. What times, what days and times of days are leads contacting you? So, you know, if you break out everything by weekday, you want to know, when do I staff? When do leads pick up? When are people calling me? Maybe time of day. Maybe they're calling you Saturday afternoon. So that's something important to track. And then response. So if you're getting a web lead, or you're getting a call in, or someone's leaving a voicemail, how quick are your salespeople getting a hold of these leads? Is it taking 10 follow-ups to get a hold of a web lead? Is that related to the amount of time that has gone by since you've responded to their web lead? Things like that you should measure. Service, this is just basically, what are they interested in? So what are you offering that they're interested in? And, you know, maybe you're getting a lot of leads for assisted living, but not so many for memory care, and you may offer both. That you'll want to track to maybe increase your marketing efforts for a particular service. And then profile. What are the demographics of a qualified lead? A lot of people don't know that, and I think that's really important to be able to pull out of your CRM and say, of people that are, you know, that are coming in, that are a lead for us, what are the people that are qualified? What do they look like? So I have to touch on the CRM features, because a lot of these features that are in a CRM are needed to be able to extract all this information. So first, when you're looking at for a CRM, make sure it's customizable. Make sure you can customize, put the fields in, put the data points that you want to track, whether it's deposit information, transaction types, to different fields in the CRM, or even census information. You want to make sure that you can do all of that. Integrate. It needs to be able to integrate with other systems. Make sure it has an API, which is just a method of integration, so that it can integrate with everything from your analytics on your website to your marketing automation, and then everything goes into the CRM. This way you can track the entire sales process. If you don't have those connected, you can track maybe how you got a lead from your digital efforts, but you can't track if that lead became a sale. So integration is important. Data export, Dave touched on this, being able to segment your list for emails or for direct mail. So can you search your system, search your CRM system based on different criteria? So if you want to pull a list of every lead who's come in this year, who has toured your building, who has, you know, interested in a specific care level, and maybe has an email address. You need to be able to pull that out of your system, because if you can't do that, you can't segment people and directly target them through your marketing efforts. And then the last two, the campaigns and events. So of course you want to be able to measure your campaign and event attendance. Don't use spreadsheets anymore. Get a system where you can actually measure that, because that's how you're going to figure out the ROI on different campaigns and events that you're doing at your communities. And then lastly, of course, reporting. Can you report, not only pulling things that we call pivot tables or data tables, but can you actually pull reports that actually show you a trend or an outlook over time? That's very important to be able to customize those reports in your system. So how to make sure that you're tracking all these metrics so that you can report on them. The first, I would say, is to make sure every lead is captured. So I would integrate your web and referral lead systems with your CRM. So if anyone submits a web form, it's going directly into your CRM. If your salespeople are just getting an email whenever someone submits a web and it's not going into your CRM automatically, then the human error comes into play. So maybe they got 100 emails that day and they're not entering them all in a timely manner, and making sure they get in a timely manner is important to be able to track when those leads are coming in. So make sure that's integrated. It's really easy to do with your CRM system, so long as they have an API where you can integrate it. And then maybe outsource some things, or have someone dedicated to take all phone inquiries. Something like a call center may be a good solution if you know you're missing a lot of call-ins. We know that every time an inquiry is missed, you're just throwing marketing dollars out the window. Because if they don't get a hold of you and they've searched Google, they're going to call the next place. So make sure none of your call-ins are going to voicemail, that there's a human person always answering those. And then you want to make sure your salespeople can classify the leads and that they're aware of what needs to be input into the system. So make sure that they're being trained, that they know exactly, that it's very transparent on what they need to enter for you to get the reports you need. And integrate your web analytics with your CRM. So if a lead does come in, you can actually get the exact source from why they're inquiring for your salesperson to view. Or if you're integrating your marketing automation or your analytics for your website, they can see what pages they're viewing. Are they looking at specific services or specific floor plans? The more that a salesperson has in the CRM, the better they can move that lead along the sales cycle. And then automate. So we all know salespeople just love doing data entry. No, they don't. They don't want to do it. So get a CRM that can automate follow-up steps for them, that can automate different, maybe a lead scoring so that they can focus on hot leads or low-hanging fruit, but automate some things to make it easier for salespeople to actually get the data in your system. So here are some of my favorite reports, and this report's showing the lead source. So you want to make sure you can not only capture lead source by category, because that will give you an overarching view of how leads are coming into your system, but you also want to track them by subcategory, and you also want to track re-inquiries. So if you have a lead that's inactive in your database and you're doing a direct mail to everyone, and all of a sudden their interest is sparked again and they contact you, you want to make sure that you have a system that can capture those re-inquiries, because those are just as important as the initial inquiry. Because of course your database is like gold to you, so you might have thousands of leads. So you want to make sure if you are spending the money to nurture those, that you're capturing exactly what is getting them re-interested into your services. And then also make sure you have a system that can show all of your communities on one report. This eliminates the time that you would spend pulling everything together if you're having to pull that individually. Plus you can roll it all up for your company and identify trends that way. So inquiry method, you want to measure how those inquiries are getting to you. So if you look at this report, the green line are sales leads, so what's coming in through a walk-in or a call-in. You can even break that out, walk-ins versus call-ins. And then also the red and purple line, the red line being web leads coming in, and purple line being paid referral leads coming in month over month for a year. This is why it's very important to integrate those two things with your CRM, because you know that every single web lead, every single referral is going in there, and that way you can track this over time. So lead time. So I like these reports because you can really see, it really helps with staffing and effectively and efficiently managing those leads coming in. When are leads coming in? You can see this chart, just an example, but in this chart you can see Monday, leads are high. They're coming in. People might have discussed it over the weekend with family members, so be prepared for those inquiries coming in Monday and Wednesday, and you can see how it dies down through Friday. You can also look at this report and see that paid referrals are outpacing call-ins. That's probably something where you can take some of Dave's tips from the traffic piece and get more organic leads so that you're not paying those hefty referral fees. Service type, this is just simply measuring what are people interested in, what are they inquiring about, and then how can you use this data to actually ramp up leads coming in, maybe for independent living if it's a little lower than assisted living. So these are good to see, especially if you look at it community versus community. What are people actually interested in, and then target those leads. Sales activity. Follow-up is so important. This is how we move a lead forward and get them to a sale. And we all know that the community or the salesperson that follows up gets the sale. And so measuring any type of sales activity, here I'm measuring in this screenshot, I'm measuring call conversion. It's really interesting when you start to look at this, when your salespeople are making calls, what days of the week are they converting those calls to actual conversations? And also breaking it out by community and by salesperson to see how many, not only how many calls did they make, but you want to make sure you're tracking a result. Are they attempting? Are they leaving a message, or are they having a conversation? Or are they converting those to a visit or a tour? So you want to track that, and you also want to monitor them, make sure that there's always a follow-up step for active leads. And so sales activity and reporting are important to close that lead to a sale. This will show just lead fit and geography of a lead. So when you're looking at a profile of your community of what leads are inquiring, look at things like what are their pay methods, what's their annual income, or their age. And you can take these dashboards and see exactly where you should be targeting your efforts, maybe seeing where your leads are coming in, and then you can say, you know, we're getting leads that aren't qualified because they're coming in from for these different categories. So really looking at your lead base and those characteristics is important, as well as the geography. So where are your leads coming from? This map here just shows zip codes and inquiries by zip code. So if you're doing radio advertising or any kind of print advertising, you may want to actually target different zip codes. You can also run reports on primary contacts of people moving in. Where do they live? All good information to know. So we can jump right into sales. What really drives sales? And so I know everyone has a different sales process, so you really should get a CRM where you can customize your sales stages. But for the purposes of this webinar, we'll focus on 4 sales stages, the first being the inquiry, the second being the face-to-face meeting, so whether it's a tour, a visit, an appointment, a presentation, whatever it's called, that's really when that lead comes in and you can form that relationship with them face-to-face. And then stage 3, this is typically the commitment stage, like a deposit or a verbal agreement to move in the future. And then stage 4 is the actual sale or the move-in. So how do we increase sales? Well, it's really a combination of everything we're talking about today. So increasing traffic first and foremost. So using new techniques to increase that traffic that's coming to view your website or that's coming into your community. And then converting that traffic to leads, using those call to action offerings to capture new leads is very important. And then most important is the centerpiece here, I think, which is capturing all inquiries. So again, you're spending all this money, you're getting all this traffic, you're getting people to convert to a lead, and then you need to capture their inquiry. So make sure you have some sort of strategy to capture all inquiries, even after hours and on weekends. Sometimes on weekends we found through our call center that those are the most urgent calls. So while your staffing may be low, maybe having some sort of call team or someone who's going to be taking all of those is really important, because they usually want to come in right away. So weekends are very important. And then convert inquiries to visits. So this is where follow-up comes into play. So we know it takes 4 to 5 follow-up steps to get someone to visit, and most salespeople quit after 2 or 3. So whoever is doing those 4th and 5th follow-up, whatever community, they're getting the sale. So make sure you're converting inquiries to visits, and then of course closing the sale. So you know, if you are focusing on closing the sale, maybe you're outsourcing some of the sales processes so that your team can focus on closing the sale with those qualified leads. So you want to make sure you're offering a good first impression to leads that aren't qualified, because word of mouth is huge. So making sure there's a dedicated team capturing the inquiries and then passing off qualified leads to your salespeople so that they can close the sale. So sales metrics, I broke these into 3 categories. So you want to measure trends, which are really sales by month, sales by geography, any kind of trend in your sales quarter over quarter. Those are important to measure. Conversion, so appointment ratio, close ratio, source conversion. This is very important to measure not only performance of your salespeople, but performance of your marketing efforts and how well your team as a whole is really closing that sale. And then the cost of the sale, so make sure you're measuring the customer acquisition cost and the ROI of each campaign you're doing. So when we talk about sales trends, this is really just charting how many move-ins you're getting or how many sales you're having month over month or quarter over quarter. So you can see in this example, I have every community in my portfolio, and I'm just tracking their trend as far as when they're getting move-ins. And so this is really important just to project future sales. and also to see where effort should be focused. And then you can see the other little picture here for each community. See where sales are coming in, which quarter of the year. So Q1 might be low. Maybe we need to focus some efforts in Q4 to get those move-ins in Q1. Obviously, Q4, we might do some incentives. We might have some things to close those deals before the fiscal year end. So that's an important metric to track, as well as invested time. So make sure you're tracking the average time invested in a lead, especially a lead that moves in, because this can help you see exactly maybe what activities have been done. So what trends can you see there, and then how much time a salesperson actually invests to close that deal. Sales conversion, when we talk about this, there's really two metrics I like: appointment ratio and close ratio. Appointment ratio being your inquiry to visit or tour, or to have them on an on-site appointment, and then your close ratio is really that on-site visit to close. You can also measure the inquiry to the actual sale as well. But here I have every community, and I can benchmark them against each other and see an average for my company as a whole. And then you can also take our benchmarking report where we roll up statistics and metrics for hundreds of communities, and you can actually see where you're falling as opposed to everyone in the industry. And then you can see here measuring market source conversion. So what market sources are helping in that conversion, especially from tour to move-in. So these are important things to track for conversion. And then closing the sale, so measuring how these leads are converting to sales. And this is where you want to bring in your sales counselors and make sure that you're monitoring their performance. So you can see on this example here, I have all of the sales counselors and what their close ratios are benchmarked against each other. I can also pull a report month over month of how many tours they're getting, so opportunities and their move-ins, so we can see how they're converting there, as well as what percentage of total move-ins does each one get for my company. So as far as measuring closing, maybe it'll tell you who needs more training, where you can focus your efforts as far as on closing the sale. Sales revenue, this is just tracking your revenue, whether you're putting in a monthly estimated value of a sale and then running a report. We can do a report with a running total, so you can actually do a projection and see what that revenue looks like month over month. You can also track deposits, both quantity and amount. This will just help you track how many people are moving in the future, and you can also put in special fields that would tell you when their move-in date is, and now you can start to predict future sales. And you can also break this out by care. So how many deposits are you getting for each care level, quarter over quarter or month over month, however you want to track it. Those are very important metrics, so you can see exactly what the pipeline looks for those.
And so I'm going to jump in on customer acquisition costs, which I think is one of the most important KPIs for any organization. I'm trying to understand how much does it actually cost to get a customer through the door, and then tying that back to the different marketing and sales efforts. So using one of the reports that you saw above from Inquire Leads, or you could use it, set these up in other CRMs as well. But using a report that basically says, all right, I spent $1,000 on Google AdWords, I spent $1,000 on building articles and content for my website, and I spent $1,000 on direct mail. Now, how many customers did I get from each one of those? Whereas, the organic content, you may get 10 new customers, AdWords 1, and direct mail 1. So something like that. But then you start to get an idea of what is the actual, how much does it cost to get one person through the door? And as long as you know what the value of that new customer is, then you can start to figure out where you have an ROI on your marketing spend. So I look at customer acquisition costs as one of the key performance indicators for any organization. So key takeaways from this webinar. One, make sure that you're driving new traffic to your website, that you're using some of the strategies we talked about earlier on in the webinar to get more people to your site, but then also implement some tools that allow you to measure what traffic's getting there, how it's getting there, what are the sources of bringing that traffic to your website, and make sure you understand what marketing is working for you. Secondly, capture and track inquiries. Once they get to your website or get to your property, or they call in. Make sure you're capturing, again, that they got there, but then also you're capturing their information so that you can start the relationship and start to automate the communication between the two of you. And then track these inquiries, and then track the effort. And to track these inquiries, the key component here is that you have to have a CRM that allows you to track all of these kind of high-level traffic things down to the actual sales process, so you can understand what's working and what's not. So you really need a CRM that integrates with your web tools, so that you can kind of go from end to end and know what's working and what's effective for you and what's not. And lastly, invest in what works. So I just talked about the example of Google AdWords versus organic versus a direct mail campaign. So once you figure out which one of those have the lowest customer acquisition costs, you're going to want to spend more time going down that path, and you're going to spend more of your money going down that path because it's going to deliver a better return on your investment. Additionally, and something that's a little bit unique for some CRMs, but make sure when you're looking at your spend, your actual customer acquisition costs, that you're including things like the amount of time that's invested to take and pull that person into a sale. So a lot of companies will say, all right, well, we spent $1,000 on marketing here, and we spent $1,000 on marketing here, and this one got 10 leads and this one got 1. But how much time did it take to actually bring that person through the sales funnel? Because if one of those people, once they're a lead, takes 50 hours of your sales personnel's work and another person takes 1 hour of sales personnel work, obviously you need to account for that and to make sure that you're deriving the right return on your investment. So with that, I'm going to open it up to questions. Looks like we've had a few come in throughout the webinar. So I'm going to go ahead and start. I had a question from Howard who asked, he had heard that AdWords is not currently the most effective way to get better search results for the website, and that he was wondering if that has changed or if that's still true, and why or why not. So as with all of this, with all of the metrics we talked about, AdWords is one tool in a marketing and sales toolkit. It can be effective when used well. It is becoming more competitive, so it makes it, you really have to put some time into the strategy and optimizing your campaigns over time and making sure you're driving people to a landing page with a conversion offer. But AdWords can be effective. I would say that as it becomes more competitive, as the landscape becomes more competitive and you have to pay more per click, it is more difficult to win. But we've won with a lot of our clients where they're seeing a return on their investment through AdWords. So it's still effective, but I would say that it's becoming a little bit less so. And so I hope that answers your question.
Okay, and then we have a question from Kelly. How often should we be looking at these metrics and reports? So that's a good question. You want to make sure you have a CRM that can actually email you the report. So I get a sales pipeline from our system every morning. That might be overkill, but you should be able to pick a schedule. So if you want it weekly, every Friday, but you should be looking at the metrics quite frequently, depending on what your strategy and goals are, but also holding those monthly reviews with your marketing team. I know we do this because we make pivots and changes weekly based on different trends we're seeing in our marketing campaigns. So you want to make sure you're looking at that traffic and also doing a monthly review to see what's working, what's not, as well as working with your sales team. So it's really important that they know what metrics you're looking at and they know how they're being judged on performance. So I suggest having that monthly sales tag up where you're actually pulling the reports that you're looking at and going through them with your sales team so they're aware of the important metrics.
Oh, and it looks like we have another question here from Brian. He asked, which marketing channels offer the lowest customer acquisition costs? So again, I wish there was a silver bullet here. So not a silver. The quick answer is it depends. That said, kind of tied to Howard's question on AdWords, the best thing you can do is one, measure all of your marketing efforts across all of your digital initiatives, and actually all of your marketing and sales initiatives, and then try to figure out what the actual customer acquisition cost is, and then redirect there. What we've seen repeatedly in the industry is that the organic traffic drives the long-term lowest customer acquisition costs. It's not always the case, and it's not something that happens overnight. It's a little bit more difficult to do, but by building content and getting having reasons for people to come to your website, we find that tends to have a really good long-term customer acquisition cost. Short-term AdWords can be good. Paid social media, if you wanted to pay to actually advertise to people through Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter, there can be opportunities there as well. But in the long run, my vote would be on organic, but that does depend on every organization and how competitive their local market is.
Okay, well, I'll take this question. It's from Mark, and it's how much time should I plan to invest to integrate our website with our CRM? That's a really good question. First of all, make sure your CRM has an open API to be able to push any web traffic to. But once you have that, it should be a fairly easy process. So you would just engage whoever your developer is for your website and make sure that the CRM has developer documentation that they can use with examples so they can implement, whether you're using WordPress with a Gravity form, for example, or you're using a content management system from one of the multiple companies out there that do that. It should be really easy and painless from a monetary standpoint and time to implement that. So that's probably one of the easiest integrations you'll do to push those leads from your CRM or from your website to your CRM.
It looks like we have one more question from Jill. She asked, what is the main driver of website traffic? So looking back at thinking of that page that we had earlier on with the sources of website traffic, again, have to start with it depends, because it matters where the life cycle of your website is. If your website is brand new and you have no content, then it's largely going to be direct traffic. So it's going to be people visiting your site because they typed in their URL, because you told them about it, or because they've heard about it from a friend or family member. If your website, if you have a expansive content section with news and articles and resources, then that over time will probably be the #1 driver, which would be organic traffic. And then the other alternative would be if, depending on how much you decide to spend on Google AdWords or any paid advertising, you technically, because you're paying for it, could make that the major driver at any point, though that can get quite costly. So again, it depends, but in the long run, my shift is always towards organic, because it has the long-term value of once you create an article, a year from now, you're still going to be getting traffic from that article, whereas with paid advertising, you get the traffic the one time, and if you want more, you have to pay for it again.
And Dave, I'm going to kind of jump in on that, because with a lot of clients, I found it's really important to improve the content for your keyword search and get that organic traffic, because lots of your referral agencies out there are going to be investing in that as well. And so oftentimes what we find, especially with the call center and through our CRM, is that when someone is searching for your community, it's actually your referral company or referral agency popping up first, because they're targeting all of those keywords instead of your community. So people are clicking that, filling out a form on those referral agencies' websites, and they're thinking they're contacting your community directly. And so then, of course, the referral fee is going to kick in because you're not that top search. So make sure you're investing in that to be that top search when people are Googling you.
Yeah, and just to that point, the referral sources are the reason that they're #1 on Google globally is because they invest heavily in the organic or content strategy. So it looks like that's it for questions. Just wanted to say thank you again to everybody for joining us today. Really appreciate the excitement that we saw in terms of the numbers of people coming through. And we really appreciate taking time out of your day to listen to us, and hopefully you have some key takeaways here some actionable takeaways that you can go implement in your organization. If you have any questions at all about the webinar, we have our email address and phone contact information here. We'll also be sending everybody that was on the webinar today follow-up emails. But thank you again for your time. Really appreciate it, and we hope you guys have a wonderful day.
Thanks, everyone.